It's a real pleasure for me to be here with all of you. And I'm so proud of Ida. Wasn't she something? You know, South Carolina has been the subject of a lot of comedians over the last couple of years, and we've all been a little embarrassed about that and still are. And yet we've got people like Ida, and I think when she retires, I'm going to run her for governor and see what Jim, I thank you. I'm so impressed with the research that's taken place, and we're so lucky to be here and receive this report, this meta-analysis, and very impressed with the kind of research that went through reaching the results. And Earl, thank you for your support over the years. Carol Rasco is a special friend of mine, and when I was Secretary, of course, Bill Clinton then really got into America Reads. He and I, putting great emphasis with Carol, was in domestic work there at the White House, and so then we got her to head up that whole effort. And I mean, it was a very important priority for our administration. Carol made sure that I had reading as a priority, and I did. And also parent involvement, and that's a very important part of what we're hearing here today. It's the parents that really can get so much out of this information. And that was a great pleasure for me, working closely with Carol all of those years on the subject of reading, and then to see the great work she's done with RIF. I'm back in Washington now. Some Education Council is a group that I'm part of, and we do education work, so I'm still involved with education with them. But as Carol said earlier, recent reports clearly show that living below the poverty line, those families that are below the poverty line have special difficulties, especially when it comes to reading and educational achievement. This cycle of poverty is very, very heavy. This report provides conclusive research that the very positive things from behavior, from education, psychological, all of these outcomes then are enhanced, of course, by access to these books. So I think it's time for all of us to realize that and to put reading out front as RIF does, and these other people and all of you that are here. All the children in our country deserve to have access to those tools that really improve their education, and we know that, and this study further shows that. I think many of us recognize the discrepancies in educational equality. The connection between childhood poverty and school performance is well documented. I saw a Newsweek study some 2 or 3 weeks ago. Carol, you probably saw it. It had 100 countries listed in the order of opportunities for people and for successful lives. In America, we would think would be number 1, but we were actually number 11. I think Finland was number 1. And the reason they pointed out was, as they described it, was family circumstances. That's the reason we're not number 1. And we do a lot of work with improving teaching, improving curriculum, principal leadership, and family involvement, or whatever. And we're making a lot of progress in a lot of ways. But the reason we're not number 1 is because of education. And the reason for education is, as they said, in their family circumstances. A poor child, poor family that is not educated, that is all into things just from day to day to day and not into thinking about their children's future because they can't. By age 3, according to this study, children were behind at least 1 year. And then, of course, it's trouble right on unless you're able to change that. The children facing these toughest challenges are those that are served by RIF. And Earl, your group is in the middle of that too. The RIF book that they receive can literally, as was pointed out by Ida, unlock unlimited opportunities for these children. And it's such a simple, clear, easy way to deal with a very difficult problem in this country. The work that Carol and Earl, Ida, others have done, all of you that are involved in this area, committed to build a solid foundation for children's literacy for them to grow on. So I think the time for all of us to take this groundbreaking meta-analysis, raise the bar, and give all children the tools that they need to be successful. Now, I was going to finish my little remarks with a story. And if I've got just a minute, you've heard this story. I know it does. I told this story all over America. Many of you have probably heard it, but I know you hadn't heard it in 10 years, because I hadn't told it in 10 years. But we had, Carol and I were going to have a summer program for reading. And we had an announcement just like this announcement. And we have it over in Arlington. There's an elementary public school there, and a big crowd of people. Of course, Washington and I was going to be there and present this program that we were starting. I guess there was 300 or 400 people there, a lot of course, children. There was an elementary school. A lot of cameras, a lot of attention. So we got there, and they said, now, Mr. Secretary, the deal is this. There's a stool here. You're to sit on this stool. And Kenneth is in the first grade, and Kenneth walked up, little guy, and had a little bow tie on, and said, Kenneth is going to pick out a book. You know, Carol said how important it is let the children pick their books out that they want. And said, and then we want you to read to Kenneth. I said, well, fine. And I sat there, and I said, all right, Kenneth, pick a book out there, about 40 books on the shelf. And he went right to one, handed it to me. It was a book about animals eating ice cream. And I said, well, that sounds like an interesting book. And so Kenneth stood there, and I got the book out and started reading, and everybody was dead quiet. And it was about the elephant eating ice cream, and then the horse eating ice cream. And we went on, and I finally said, you know, we're on about page 10, and I've got about 20 to go. And I said, it's getting terribly boring here with this crowd, and I'm going from animal to animal, so I was trying to think of something to loosen things up. So I turned the page, and it was a spider eating ice cream. And I said, spider? Kenneth, who ever heard of a spider eating ice cream? Kenneth turned around to me, leaned over into the microphone, and he said, Mr. Secretary, this book is fiction. Remember that? And that really happened. What I've told people, I know Kenneth went home that night and told his mother, you know, I thought that secretary was pretty smart. He believed that stuff about the spider eating ice cream. It's great to be with you all, and I'm so proud of you.